The wind shifts without warning, and that's the only reason you're still breathing right now. 3 days of careful discipline, 3 days of silence and high ground, and none of it matters in the 2 seconds it takes for a 9-ton animal to close 40 feet of open riverbank. You are exactly as far from your platform as you were the first morning you woke up here. But first, let's go back to how this moment found you. Day 4. You wake before the tripwire ever sounds, some older instinct pulling you upright in the dark. You spend the morning refilling water at a new point on the stream, exactly the way you planned 2 days ago. Downwind, backtracking through the shallows, so nothing can follow your scent home. It's working. You've gone 3 days without being tracked, and that success is exactly what makes today dangerous, because comfort is the first thing that gets people killed in every era, including this one. The wind shifts at the worst possible moment. 1 second you're crouched at the water's edge. The next, the tripwire on the eastern trail clatters behind you. At the exact same instant, a shape breaks the tree line 40 feet upstream. You freeze, exactly once, for exactly 1 second, and that second nearly cost you your life. Then you remember what you learned watching it for 3 straight days. It tracks motion first, detail second. Standing still doesn't save you. Moving wrong does. You don't run in a straight line. You cut sideways, hard, forcing a 9-ton animal that needs almost 2 full seconds to change direction, to recalculate an angle it wasn't ready for. Its head snaps toward you a half-beat too late. You feel the ground shudder as it commits to the turn, and you use every inch of that delay. You make it to the dense brush you scouted back on day 2. Trunks close enough together that something this size cannot push through without slowing to a crawl. You hear it hit the edge of the brush behind you, hear branches snap under weight they were never built to hold, and then, for the first time, you hear it stop. Not because it's merciful, because chasing costs it more energy than it's willing to spend on prey that just became difficult. Predators here, like predators everywhere, do the math on effort versus reward, and today the math favors you. You sit against a tree for 20 minutes before your hands stop shaking. When they finally do, you notice something useful through the panic. Its footprints in the mud beside the brush line are deeper on the left side, meaning it favors one leg, meaning its turning radius on that side is worse than the other. You don't know it yet, but that detail is going to matter enormously 2 days from now. You spend the rest of day 4 rebuilding your warning line, this time doubling the tripwires and adding a second ring farther out, so a wind shift never catches you by surprise again. You also do something you hadn't considered until today. You start sleeping in shifts of a few hours at a time instead of one long stretch, waking every so often just to listen. It costs you rest. It buys you a warning. Between shifts, you go back over everything from the chase in your head, the way an athlete replays a play that almost went wrong. The moment you froze cost you almost a full second, and a second at that distance is the entire margin between escape and capture. You promise yourself it won't happen again, and you spend part of the afternoon deliberately practicing the sideways cut on flat ground near your platform, over and over, until the motion stops feeling like a decision and starts feeling like a reflex. It's exhausting in a way that has nothing to do with muscle. It's the kind of exhausting that comes from training your own instincts to override themselves. You also notice, almost by accident, that the smaller 3-toed scavengers you've been tracking near the water avoid a particular stretch of open bank entirely, cutting a wide loop around it every time, rather than crossing directly. You don't understand why until you walk the stretch yourself and feel the ground give slightly under your own weight. Another patch of soft, unstable earth, smaller than the sinkhole you found on day 3, but proof that this pattern of hollow ground isn't a one-time discovery. It's a feature of this entire stretch of riverbank, which means your plan isn't just clever. It's supported by something the land itself has been doing for longer than you've been here. Day 5. You stop thinking about surviving today and start thinking about ending this. You've watched it for 4 days now, Its territory, its blind spots, its favored leg, its refusal to cross soft ground, its reluctance to fight through dense brush. Every animal, no matter how powerful, is a collection of things it can and cannot do. And you've spent 4 days building a complete list of the things it cannot do. Near the riverbank, past the point where it usually turns back toward the water, you found something on day 3 that you marked, but didn't fully understand until now. A stretch of ground that looked solid, but sounded hollow under a thrown rock. An old sinkhole, thinly crusted over with dried mud and matted roots, wide enough to swallow something the size of a small car. You test it carefully from the edge, tossing progressively heavier stones toward the center, and each one breaks through with a soft, distant crack rather than a solid thud. You spend the entire day reinforcing the trap without weakening the crust that matters. You clear brush around the near edge, just enough to make the approach look open and appealing. Flat, easy ground, exactly the kind of terrain it prefers, while leaving the surrounding area choked with obstacles on every other side. If it's ever going to commit to a full run in your direction, this is the only direction you're going to let it run. You also remember the footprint detail from yesterday. The favored leg, the weaker turn to one side. You angle the soft approach to the sinkhole so that if it's forced to react quickly from its blind side, its instinct will carry it directly across the weak crust rather than around it. You're no longer just surviving the terrain. You're starting to build it against your enemy on purpose. By the time the light fades on day 5, you're exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with hunger. 5 days of listening, mapping, running, and now building have taught you the one lesson that no version of this story would have made sense without. You were never going to outmuscle something built to end fights in a single bite. You were only ever going to outthink it, one small, exhausted decision at a time. Tonight, for the first time since you woke up in this world, you don't sleep on the ridge. You sleep close to the trap, close enough to watch it in the dark, because tomorrow you're not going to wait for it to find you again. Tomorrow, you're going to make sure it does.